Hey guys, how's it going? Well, today we're working on Speedy. This is the 74 Plymouth Valiant, which you've seen several videos on. What we're doing today, we're doing some work with the cooling system. The cooling system on this car has been kind of marginal this summer. I've been driving it pretty regularly, and by that I mean I've been driving it on the highways and up and down mountains, and just like you would any car, and it's never overheated, but it's run warmer than I think it needs to. And I know the radiator is on its last legs. As you can see, it's got several green stains on it where it's been seeping coolant out at different places and all that. So it's not to the point where it's leaking on the ground yet, but that's coming, I'm sure. So it's going to need a radiator, and that's probably 80% of it right there. You know, the harder you drive it on the highway, it just gets a little bit warmer, and that just means you're running out of capacity. And when you run out of capacity, it doesn't mean that you don't have enough radiator. It just means your radiators, you know, it can be like your body. You know, your circulatory system gets clogged up and you start having circulatory problems, and the radiator is the same way. You know, it just won't cool enough anymore because the flues and everything get stopped up in that old radiator. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on this clutch fan. This is what people call them. They call them a clutch fan. Actually, Chrysler's name for it, they always called these a fluid fan. But that, it doesn't matter what you call it. Just it has this unit on it. This is a thermal fan clutch. You see, it's got a little spring. It's kind of goopy right there. This came from the junkyard, but it's kind of, I'll clean that off. But it's got a little coil spring on it, and basically that coil spring winds and unwinds in response to the temperature of the air that's coming through the radiator. So when there's cool air coming through the radiator, it relaxes, and it well, I need to be careful how I say that. It moves in one direction, let's put it that way, and unlocks the fan clutch, so the fan kind of freewheels. And when the air going through there heats up and gets hot, you know, past a certain temperature when the engine's working hard, then that spring does its thing the other direction, and it locks the clutch up and the fan runs. So that's how a lot of fans are these days. But back in the day, one thing I wanted to talk about in this video, back in the day, Chrysler they weren't standardizing on their fan application. Now, over here on Grandma Hughes, this is the car. I haven't showed you much of this car. This is one I hadn't had very long, but haven't done any videos on it. But this car is a 73. It's a Slant 6. It's the total opposite of that car. That car's not, you know, it's luxurious, got several creature comforts, power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, that kind of V8 engine, that kind of thing. And this one's a Slant 6. No power steering, no power brakes, no air conditioning, manual everything. It's a 3 on the tree, just a very basic Plymouth. So my grandparents had one just like it back when I was young, and that's why I wanted this one. And this one's actually got 49,000 miles on it. That one's got about 110. But this one's, the body on it's rougher. As you can see, it's got some stuff going on, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is I want to show you these different kinds of fans. Now this is the most basic radiator. This is, I think, an 18-inch radiator. I don't know, let's measure that. I got my measuring stick here. Does anybody ever use one of these like this anymore? Yeah, it's an 18. Thought it was. It's an 18-inch radiator. This is what came on the most basic Slant 6, and then it has a 4-blade. This is what's called a fixed fan right here. It means it does not move. The blades don't move or anything like that. There's no clutch on it. It runs all the time, pulls air all the time. There's no shroud. That's exactly how it came. Chrysler deemed that adequate for a non-air conditioning Slant 6 A-body. And this car has a 26-inch radiator. There was a radiator that was the middle ground between that came on air conditioning Slant 6s and standard non-air 318s. But this is a 26-inch radiator. This is the largest that ever came in it. And this car has a flex fan on it. And this is a flex fan is kind of, my personal opinion about flex fans is that they suck, and I'll tell you why they suck, and not literally. We're going to take a close look at this. Now you saw the fixed fan over there. Now here's a flex fan, and you see it's got a direct drive. It's just got a spacer. There's no clutch on it. It's got 5 blades. Now at first glance you see these fan blades are pretty deep. They're curved pretty sharply. Looks like they'll suck a lot of air in, and they do at low speeds. But what happens is, see, they're trying to make this work 2 different ways, and you know, this old saying goes, when you try to do something 2 different things, you don't do either of them very well. So that's the deal. What happens is, this is a flexible fan blade, and when the engine speeds up and air resistance grows because it's trying to move more air, instead of it staying like this, it starts flattening out like this. And I've seen it do it. I've revved the engine up out here and watched it, and sure enough, all 5 blades do this. You can just see it do it. And I'm not talking about very high RPMs either, probably about, you know, 1500 to 2000 RPMs, and that's about where this engine runs its highway speeds. So at highway speeds, you know, you tell me how much air you think it's pulling in. But the problem is, they say, well, you don't need air at highway speeds. Well, you might. I mean, you know, if you're pulling a mountain and, you know, you're still going 60, but you've got a load on this engine and you need to be moving more air, and you watch the temperature gauge go up, this thing has got no way to move more air right here. It stays like this. And then this also, you see how much of a blockade it is to air coming through the radiator? It doesn't look like it would be much, but it is. So I know several of you guys like flex fans, but I think they're a terrible idea. I don't know why anybody would really want to even use one. This is, I think a thermal fan like this one is the best idea, because it's the closest thing to an electric fan, meaning that it turns itself off when it's not needed. It runs when it is needed. And that diesel truck out there, it's got a thermal fan like this one. And buddy, I'll tell you what, I can be pulling something and go up a hill, and the temperature doesn't come up very much since I put that aluminum radiator in it. But when it really starts working hard, you can hear that fan kick in out there, man, and that thing, it moves some air. And you just watch the temperature gauge. It's, you know, it's probably not even up near halfway. It's probably about a third of the way up, and it just starts back down again. So I don't tell anybody what to do, but you can have your electric fans and you can have your flex fans and all like that. I don't like them. I think it's, you know, people put electric fans on cars like this, you know, like Dusters and things like that, and you know, they're pretty happy that they're saving a few horsepower. I don't. Every first time an electric fan fails to operate and you're in traffic, you're going to be wishing you had this one, or maybe at least this one, back on it. I don't do that. I don't play that game. No electric fans for me. So we'll do some more videos on Grandma Hughes there, and I'll explain that name. That was my grandmother's name. But we'll do some videos on this car coming up. It's got a sick carburetor on it right now, which is absolutely no surprise. It's got one of those Holley 1920 one barrels. You can see it poking its head out from under the air cleaner right there, and that's another thing that, you know, I'll never hesitate to tell you that I think something sucks, and that's a carburetor that sucks every way possible to suck. It's a hazardous design. It's prone to leaking fuel. That one's original, and it's never been cracked open, so it doesn't leak. But it's got that side-mounted fuel bowl right there, and once you get into them and people start messing with them and they can't get the gasket to seal again, it just drip, drip, drip on the end stake. And it's got one of those Holley type. Of course, it is a Holley, but it's got a Holley type of accelerator pump diaphragm that, and guess what, when that thing breaks, it leaks outside the carburetor. So that thing's going away. I've already bought another kind of carburetor for it, so I'll be making a video about that. So, alright guys, well, wanted to just do a video on these fans here. You know, you've seen me mess with these before, and yeah, no flex fans for me. They're dangerous, and in my opinion, they're dangerous, and I've seen pictures where people have had them and rev the engine up real high, and they'll throw a blade off and come through the hood or the radiator. You know, this is bad news. I wouldn't suggest anybody ever use one of them. You know, people say, well, I don't like hearing that fan roar up there sometimes. Well, you know, life is not all sunshine. You got to have, you know, to cool the engine, you have to move some air, and there is no getting around that. You can't have a quiet fan that moves a whole lot of air. It just doesn't happen. That's just how airflow works. So anyway, all right guys, well, I got to get some work done here. I've been out all day at the junkyard doing some things, and I've been working hard on this Blazer over here, so I'll be making an update video on it pretty soon. It's really coming together, so stay tuned. See you around.